I thought I'd say something really funny.
Yeah.
Go on.
Are you sure?
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah. Drum roll.
Spurs. Hey party people, Oath 12 here, and welcome to the 7th Suburban Gooner podcast. The usual gang are here, so me, Ben and Chris, and for the first time we have a guest on, live from Hawaii. It is Paul, aka Invincible. Hi Paul.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thank you. You both there, Chris and Ben?
Yes.
Indeed.
Cool. Okay guys, this jumps straight in.
Could I just say,
Southampton.
just quickly,
Oh
we're
my
blatantly... Did you hear how Ben and I just tried to do the best possible accents after Paul just said, Chris, you sound a bit preppy. So Ben and I are now just like, oh, hello, good afternoon.
Trying to talk very slowly and clearly.
I'm going
Okay.
to enunciate.
Is that an impression of me?
Yeah.
I keep getting accused of being posh on the podcast. In case you hear the coughing, Paul isn't very well, but we're finding it hard to feel sorry for him because he picked up his flu in LA, whereas Ben quietly pointed out that he picked his up in Croydon, so we feel more sorry for Ben than we do Paul.
Yeah. It's more likely to be knifing as well in Croydon.
Paul,
Yes.
did you get to see the Southampton game?
I did. I had to wake up at I think it was 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock in the morning. So, for us plastic fans that don't go to the stadium,
That sounds
every now
pretty
and then.
hardcore to me.
Yeah, it's pretty hardcore. The only thing that really sucks about it for me is that you watch a game drinking coffee instead of gin and tonic. And so, there's a different emotional reaction, than if you're slightly drunk. I think it's better watching it at night with alcohol.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not sure I've ever watched a game drinking gin and tonic, but I'll have to give it a try. They don't serve that at the Emirates.
That's because you're not sophisticated. If they did serve it at the Emirates, it would be like 78 quid. So,
Yeah, that's true. Maybe they do.
Maybe.
in that middle tier. In that middle tier of the director's box, exactly.
Yeah.
So Chris and Ben, you watched it on the TV because you didn't make it, did you, Chris?
No, I went to some dodgy pub that was showing like Russian version of the game, and so the commentary was very, very interesting. Random words that I couldn't even guess what the language was, but just occasionally punctuated with "Wilshire" or something like that. So yeah, Wilshire or Giroud, and in a very aggressive sort of manner. So I'm guessing it was probably Russian. But there you go. Yeah, so interesting game. It was one of those. It was a difficult one to sort of call, really, from my perspective, because I always get nervous before games, but I didn't feel as nervous, and I think I wrote that in the blog yesterday.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't feel nervous, and I actually said on Twitter to somebody I was nervous because I wasn't feeling nervous, which was a bit strange. But it was a funny game because it wasn't a vintage Arsenal. It was a classic one of those. If Manchester United had played like that, all we'd have got, the response that we've got from the press and all media, all sections in the media is, grinding out a win. That's the stuff of champions. But of course we do it, and we're lucky. So I don't know what you think about that, Ben.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't know. When we went one up, I wasn't. Usually when we go one up, you get a bit worried and a bit. Oh no, we're just going to throw this away. But I didn't. I was quite sort of calm. But that was the team as well. They were sort of very calm. They kept their shape, stayed patient, and that elusive mental strength was key. And I was just quite impressed how controlled it was. I don't know if you felt it was controlled, but I just felt as soon as we got that goal, we had it. Because I was kind of worried how we would do with them sort of stifling us, the sort of frustration. Because obviously losing to United is never pleasant, is it? And then having to sit on it for like 2 weeks. Just worried if we were going to bounce straight back, and we did. And it was a massive, massive result. And just to kind of put it into some context, they sort of played 8, won 5, drawn 3, not lost. And they played United and Liverpool in that time. So I think that says how massive it was.
Yeah, definitely, and I think I'd agree with that. I think it was although you're right, it wasn't vintage Arsenal, barring the two chances that unfortunately would be forgotten in time, which is the Wilshere chip and the one that Ozil fizzed across the box and Ramsey hit the post. They would have been two glorious goals. But, I mean, they had a couple of chances, but I thought it was quite comfortable. And going back to your blog, Chris, when you kind of called the team out and you thought Wilshere would be the one to sit next to Arteta and Ramsey further forward, I was actually really happy to see it was the other way round, because I think that Ramsey should be that kind of box-to-box one sat next to Arteta. So I was happy that that happened.
Mm. Yeah, it was interesting. I've said this before though. I think we do so much. There's so much fluidity amongst our more creative players that the players tend to play different positions all the time anyway. So some of them tend to get forward and some of them sit back. Sometimes you'll have Wilshere sitting deeper. The only one that really seems to just constantly sit deep would be Arteta. I mean, Paul, what's your sort of take on that from a fan overseas perspective? What did you think about the way that we line up and the fluidity?
Obviously, we've got such a wealth of kind of attacking midfielders. We've got a lot of people really great on the ball. I think what we really miss is a player that is happy to run onto the ball, to run into spaces. We've got a lot of people that are very comfortable having ball ball coming to their feet. Pretty much all of them around the top, and we don't have a lot of people whose kind of natural game is to run into those spaces, pick up the ball on the run. I mean, Savinho, Walcott, those kind of guys used to do it. They're happy to run onto the ball. We've got Cazorla, Ozil. They kind of prefer to be static, get it at their feet, and then kind of try build up play from there. Which sometimes I think is where it breaks down, because it takes just that much longer. When they play their little one-off passes, like the kind of winger ball. Tiki-taka, that's normally halfway through a move, but it takes a little while to kind of get the engine running, and I think that with Theo coming back, I think it'll help. I think we just need people to make use of these kind of magical wizard playmakers that we have up front.
I think that's a really good point, because actually when Wilshere came on, I know him and Ozil weren't on the pitch for very long together, but straight away there was a different kind of pass for Ozil to pick out from these runs that Walcott was making. So that's a really good point, actually.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I sort of felt that was the only thing we really lacked was pace, because it was interesting to watch Southampton. They were very able to sort of push up very quickly with sort of little to no concern.
Yeah, Rodriguez was brilliant. I mean, Rosicky kind of has that, and Jack has that. They'll get the ball, and they have this instant desire and this urge to move forward.
Yeah,
so they can advance us 10 or 20 meters very quickly. But if you look at like the Invincibles situation, he used to have 2 or 3 people running up together, and these quick passes added to that running. The transition phase was so much quicker than ours at present. I feel like it's a little bit slow. Kind of tending to want to wait for the ball.
There's more of a build-up, isn't there? With the Invincibles, it was literally like from box to box within about 10 seconds, not even within like 10 seconds, because we just have that lightning pace all over the pitch. But I don't know whether that's because of the injuries that we've had, and now that we've got sort of Walcott coming back, there'll be Podolski coming back, you've got Gnabry who's got to turn a pace when the Ox comes back. So we'll have those different options. I think that's what we saw, as you said, Steve, that's what we sort of saw as soon as Walcott came on. And there was a different type of pass, but the Invincibles was front to back very quickly, whereas there seems to be more of a build-up in play. It's like they lay the foundations for the next attack, so to speak, and they go together as a collective rather than a Pires, Henry, Ljungberg just bursting forward. I don't know. Steve, what do you reckon?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's very rare now. I mean, it still looks great when we do it, because we do every now and then we spring forward really fast, and it's a shame we don't do it more often, because actually we're quite good at it instead of doing the kind of slow move. I mean, the move that led up to the Ramsey where he hit the post from Ozil, that was fairly slow actually, but there was kind of loads of passing, and that would have been such a wonderful goal. It was actually one of those moments where I was so gutted that it didn't go in, because it would have been like lauded as a great goal. Before we talking about the goals, let's talk about Boruc. Who wants to talk about that?
I think Giroud's grandfather's spirit possessed him for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
You know, he definitely looked like he lost the plot. You know.
I'm sure, I don't know whether I read it on Twitter or I heard someone say it. I think I read it actually. There's a quote from Ruud Gullit which just said, like, the reason goalkeepers play in goal is because they're not footballers. And you could tell that from Boric trying to make, what was it, like 3 Cruyff turns.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't even think Cruyff did that many Cruyff turns in once, so I don't know what you're trying, mate, but I don't know. I think I actually was. It was me that managed to transmit my commentator's curse onto Boric, because I'd said in the morning, every time a team like Southampton comes to the Emirates, usually the goalkeeper has an absolute bright blinder. I remember Begovic last season just having the game of his life, or Krul having the game of his life, and so I've blatantly given that curse. So I'm gonna take all the praise. That 3 points was actually created and developed from Chris Howard, and not actually the 11 players on the Arsenal pitch.
Yeah,
So,
thanks,
Congratulations.
and Steve
awesome,
sticking his
great.
stickers in. Oh no, you didn't stick your
No,
stickers.
you didn't do it.
No, but I had the sticker book with me and held them really close together. So they were almost stuck in.
Like an evil
Oh.
eye.
For anyone that doesn't know, you might want to explain about the stickers thing, Steve.
Basically, my theory is that we win because I stick my stickers in on time. Literally, the Dortmund game, I'd stuck my last sticker in just as we kicked off. And I was in late from work, so I was panicking, going as fast as I can. And, like my family going, what's wrong? I was like, I've got to get my stickers in before this game. And it worked.
Yeah.
But, going back to the Boric Giroud one-on-one, you have to give huge credit to Giroud, because, I mean, he even said in some interview that, he was going to slide in.
Yeah.
And I think that would have been like a natural response, but to give Clattenburg any kind of remote reason to blow us up, I mean, they protect keepers so much these days.
Yeah.
It was amazing that he managed to kind of have a hand on the shoulder, reach around, get the ball, and not get blown up, because it would have been just very easy for Clattenburg to ruin that whole moment. So credit to Giroud for keeping his head and not launching in.
Yeah. Yeah, and because he didn't have just the one opportunity either. He tried it like 3 times. I think to be fair to Wenger and the coaching staff, we kind of must have known about his distribution, because from their goal kicks, their ground kicks, we had Özil and Giroud on the edge of the 18-yard box pretty much every time, so that he had to kick it long. And a lot of the time he was just kicking it out for throw-ins and stuff. So they'd obviously picked up on that. And I mean, after the Giroud goal, every time he got the ball, the whole stadium was just oh.
Yeah, it's funny. Do you know what's interesting though? It was a good game. It wasn't a good game, I didn't think, in terms of loads and loads of chances created, but it was a game for the advocates of pressing, because Arsenal press. They don't press like Barcelona pressed us sort of a few years ago when they came to the Emirates, and we ended up drawing 2-2. But that night, they just pressed us all over the park, Barcelona did. But Southampton did exactly the same thing. And I didn't think Arteta had a great game, but I think that there's a reason behind that, and that's because he's the one that normally picks up the ball from one of our back 4. He's always there, showing for them. Yeah. But our back 4 were under pressure because the front 3 of Southampton constantly pressed, and they pressed Chesney, and they chased down the ball. And so naturally, Arteta's going to get more of the ball, and he was under pressure every time he got the ball. So as soon as he loses the ball, we're under sort of under the cosh a bit. And he didn't play great, but I think an element of that might have been the pressing side. I don't know what you guys thought about the way Southampton pressed.
Yeah, well, Mertesacker had a great. Sorry, Mertesacker had a really great turn. Because he always worries me when Mertesacker gets the ball and somebody does press him. He always looks like he's like a little bit panicky, and he puffs out his cheeks and he passes the ball. This time he saw that guy coming in, I think, out of the corner of his eye, and just did a little side step. And
that was great.
Yeah, so
he's better than a few years ago, isn't he? Because when he first came, I mean, he's I think he has improved his his ability to react a bit quick. That's just my sort of untrained eyes on it. But I feel like he's reacting a lot quicker than when he first arrived. I mean, when he first arrived from Bremen, it was like he might as well have been like a lorry, and every time he turned, it was like you might as well have heard beep, beep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It took him that long, yeah. It was that,
Well, it
was
is
that
about
sort of
5 meters. It's 5 meters from his brain to his legs, so the signal takes a while to get there. Maybe they've short-circuited it somehow. They bypassed it with some electric cables running down his back.
I think some of it must come with confidence as well, though, Chris. The more he's kind of playing and he's being lauded now as kind of the first choice centre-back, and we have to play him with other people, he's going to be more confident in doing that kind of stuff. And going back to the Arteta, I think you're right. I mean, he wasn't amazing. I don't think he had a terrible game, but he certainly wasn't his best game. And I think you're right about the pressing. But also, when he went off, we did miss him.
You could tell that, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Who was just quickly, everyone? Who was your man of the match? Because mine was Giroud, because I thought he was brilliant. He scored the goals, obviously, which was great, but he just generally all-round play. He was just really good. Who's your sort of man of the match, guys?
Do you want to take that first, Paul?
Sure. I think I'd say Chesney. I just the performance yesterday on the back of a string of really good performances. I mean, we've had 3 clean sheets, I think, in the last 4 games against some pretty tough opposition. And, every time he does that cat burglar reflex save, and, you've got to count that up as the equivalent of a goal. Saving the goal is the same as not having to score one.
Yeah.
So, just there were 2 brilliant saves and then 1 punch, because, I found their corners were launched in really well. They're pretty accurate. And he came and claimed that 1 corner kick, and I think there were 2 guys waiting for it, and he punched it out to the sideline. I just think he's, he deserves some acknowledgement for what he's been putting in.
That's going to be really important next week, isn't it? Because we've got Cardiff, and having watched Man United Cardiff today, they're just going to lump balls into the box, so we're going to need Chesney to be claiming it. Sorry, Steve.
No, definitely, I agree. I was just going to say it was quite interesting for the goalkeepers, because they're both kind of fighting for the number 1 spot, aren't they, for their country? And Chesney had a great game, and Buric did his little trick. Yeah. Who was your man of the match, Ben?
Obviously, Giroud was the obvious standout in my opinion, but I think Ramsey did very, very well. His bursts into the box are so well timed, and I don't want to say this, but it's very Lampard-esque. And if he continues, in the terms of goal, the rate that he could score goals, if he can continue that from that position, we could have a top goal scorer on our hands from nothing.
Lampard.
Right, let's take a vote. Paul and Chris, do you think I should bleep that out like a swear word?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Get that bleeped. Get that bleeped in the edited.
My man of the match, I'd have to go with Giroud. I think everything he did, his hold-up play, his work rate, he was like a man possessed. I mean, obviously he'd had his bereavement. I read somewhere, I don't know how true it is, that he was offered compassionate leave and didn't take it. Which is interesting. I don't know how true it is, but I'm sure if he'd have asked, he would have got it anyway. And he was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I wish they'd give Bentner compassionate leave.
Indefinitely.
Indefinite compassionate leave.
He's sort of he's basically on holiday anyway now, isn't he? Because he's not going to get anywhere in the first team. Yeah, with Walcott and Podolski coming back in a couple of weeks and Gnabry. Surely we're not going to actually play Bentner. Even if Giroud gets injured over the next couple of weeks, surely he'll just play anyone else but Bentner.
Yeah, unless you have to chuck Podolski up there, surely.
Yeah, you'd have thought so.
Yeah.
Ben, I don't
Podolski
know if,
was...
Go on, Paul.
Sorry. Yeah, Podolski was in such great form. I mean, just before his injury, those 2 goals, I think, was it Fulham?
Yeah.
The guy was... The thing about Locust Podolski, the guy with the strongest leg muscles in the league, is that when he gets a chance, he seems to just nail it right on the head every time. I mean, his strikes. I think when he first joined, Chesney was saying that Podolski, was definitely the hardest shot for him to block and practice and stuff, the ball was just ridiculously well shot. I mean, Vermaelen's got a real cannon on him, but apparently Podolski was even better at that,
Yeah. I bet he was a right git in the playground when you used to do headers and volleys, and whoever was the last one in goal, you just all get the ball and balls and just boot them at him against.
Exactly.
I bet Podolski was always the git, because also it was obviously he's turned into a professional footballer, so he can hit a target. So he'd be aiming right for your face, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he's got the power and the accuracy, which is just bad for headers and volleys. Ben, I don't know if you noticed, but one of the pictures I sent through to you was the subs warming up.
Yeah.
And the reason I took that picture was because Bentner was running, and I'd never seen it before, so I thought I'd take a picture of Bentner running.
It must have been a shock. Did you have to sit down and hug your sticker book?
Yeah, I didn't watch the match for the next 5 minutes. I was just shaking in my seat.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but when Bentner runs, it really looks like he's running underwater. It's the strangest thing. If you watch, I can remember when he used to play regularly, like a couple of years back, and there would be a through ball for him, and he'd run, and you'd think, it reminds me of those dreams when you're crossing a river and there's sharks coming towards you, and you're trying to run across the river and you can't. It's just it's the strangest thing. Anyway, maybe that's just
funny.
my crazy.
That's probably true. I get this. Suddenly, I've got this image in my head, like his legs are moving really, really quickly, but he's not going anywhere. And it's literally just like, oh my god, yes, bubbles, yeah.
It's like Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
Wile E.
Yes,
Coyote
Wile E.
on the edge of the cliff.
Yeah.
The legs are moving. And he's
I'm imagining Bentner's face on Mario in the underwater levels now.
yeah, there you go, the bubbles. And there's fish.
Steve, what were they saying? You are a man behind the dugout. What were they saying to the away team players or manager?
They were mainly this week. They were mainly shouting. One guy was Balls. They were calling him Moby and singing at him every time he stood up. And then this other guy stood up who had big ears. They started saying, "Dumbo, sit down. I can't see." To which I just hid because I thought my ears actually bigger than his.
Oh, no.
So I put my hat on after that.
You should have had stickers over your ears, man.
Not even the stickers are keeping those down, Paul, I tell you.
Oh, God.
Is it wrong?
But there was a point. Sorry.
I was going to say, is it really wrong that I want Bentner to come on for just 5 minutes more so I can see him run?
Yeah. We're all going to be calling for him now.
Yeah. It's a pity we're out of the credit card cup because, we would have been able to see him doing his underwater running stint.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the biggest disappointment. Sorry, being out of the credit card cup is not having the chance to see people like Selalem. Some of the guys that that would have been, I think, their chance to step up to the first team. Obviously, I'm not sure that we have the depth to compete on 4 levels, but that's the disappointment, I think, for me.
I think they'll get a loan, won't they? So the only way we're going to see them is if players like Zelalem go out on loan in January or something for a few months. Mm-hmm. I know Bellerin's gone out, hasn't he, to Watford?
Okay. Right.
So I reckon that's what's going to happen over the next few weeks. It'll probably. I'm still not sure that we'll get a striker in January. I don't want to talk about transfers targets and stuff like that, but I'm not convinced whether we will get a striker in January actually, because I think he'll just stick with what he's got when he gets Podolski and Walcott fully fit. But I think it'll be a chance for those younger players to just go out on loan, and then we'll see them probably on the lunchtime Sky Bet kickoff, championship kickoff games or something like that. So. Nervous about this weekend, Steve? Or not this weekend, this midweek, Steve?
No, I'm not. I mean, it would be an absolute travesty, wouldn't it, if we didn't come away with the win? It would be really, really terrible. But no, I'm quietly confident. We've got a few players like Rosicky could start that game, Walcott could start that game. They should be pretty fresh. Ozil, he came off towards the end, so he didn't look particularly happy about that, by the way. So he should be okay. So I think we'll be all right. I'm not too worried.
And Flamini will be back.
Yes,
So.
Flamini will be back as well.
Yeah.
Ben, you tend to know more about the overseas, sort of the French leagues and German leagues and Spanish leagues and stuff like that. Thoughts on Marseille?
It's actually rumoured that they're going to rest players.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, because I think it was something like they've got 8 or 9 games in the next sort of 24, 25 days, I think. And because they're pretty much accepting that they're going out, they were even going to rest some. So obviously that would be fantastic news if they did do that, but it was just a rumour, so I can't actually see it happening. But I just hope we take it seriously because they are a very good side.
Yeah.
In some of the games they probably should have got more out of it instead of, because have they lost every game?
Yeah. I don't think they have a point.
No, exactly. So they've lost every game, and
So they're out, basically.
Yeah, they are out.
well, they are pretty much out, and that's where this sort of, if it is a rumor, if not, has come from. But no, I just hope we get the job done. I don't want all this like too much rotation. I'd just rather we sort of got the 3 points and then we're in a position to rest against Napoli if it all went well. But yeah, it's just worrying about sort of, I don't know, sort of going on the back foot and not doing a job, because that's what it's about Tuesday night, is getting over the finish line.
Yeah, and if
You think they'd play for Marlon?
Well, that's an interesting one.
That's interesting, but I hope they don't. I hope he just pretty much goes full guns for it.
I think it depends on how the back two are playing, or how fit the back two are, and whether or not they've hit this magical, mystical
Red zone.
Red zone, which obviously would have confused loads of fans a few years ago before they Arsenalised the stadium, because that was one quarter of the ground, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Red, green, yellow, and orange quadrants.
All the players are standing in the upper tier.
Yeah.
But no, it'd be interesting though. So more thoughts on that is obviously Arteta possibly out with injury. Have we heard how long he's going to be out for? Or any rumours?
No, I haven't heard.
No, I haven't heard anything actually.
But obviously we have Flamini back, and I imagine he might have the red mist about him coming up against his old team. So Ramsey's going to have a massive game in there, isn't he? Keeping the ball ticking over. It's one of those nights he's going to need to be disciplined. Whereas sort of when he was against Dortmund at home, he was very sort of lax and a bit all over the shop. I know he made that mistake, but that's a bit harsh to sort of comment on that. But he's going to need a big game, I think.
The thing is, they're going to need to rotate, because we've got Marseille midweek, then Cardiff away, then Hull midweek. Then we've got Hull, haven't we?
No.
On the
Right,
4th.
yeah.
And then we've got Everton at home.
Everton.
And then we've got Napoli, I think, and then we've got Man City away, and then I think we've got a week off, and we've got Chelsea at home on the Monday. So he's going to have to rotate at some stage. So maybe Vermaelen does need to come in a game like this. I don't know.
I think he was quite solid against United.
He was very solid, very solid.
And he did well against Chelsea as well.
He was. That's a fair shout, actually, Steve. He did very well. But it's just my worry is that obviously Flamini defensively is superb, and his just general covering of the back four is amazing, but his play slows us down, and I don't know. I'd be comfortable and happy if we put out a full team and just got those points. Because I'm just worried that we're going to draw, and then it's even more pressure when it comes against Napoli, that he's got to go full strength at a time that it probably would be better to rest, because that's closer to obviously Everton and Man City. So
I think he'll go for it. I think he'll go for a full strength team, and then hopefully kind of get it done and start bringing players off if he needs to. In that full strength team, though, I'm wondering if Walcott will start.
He looked a little bit off on Saturday, didn't he?
Yeah,
you could tell he was a bit rough.
Kind of 10 minutes to do anything, really, didn't it?
Yeah, what's kind of interesting is he didn't seem very engaged. He kind of hovered in that middle ground between. He wasn't pressing. He wasn't back defending. I kind of watched him as much as I could on TV. Obviously, you can't see the whole picture like when you're at the game.
Yeah.
But he just, and he tends to do that sometimes. Either that or he drifts, into the centre, and then Sanya's kind of left on his own, kind of patrolling the whole, right-hand side. So, I don't know. I just hope Theo. He's so powerful when he plays like a proper winger. When he doesn't drift in too much, he can cut in, or and when he and Sanya are working together down the wing, I think that's when he's at his best.
It's interesting you say that, because that's his main problem, isn't it? It's inconsistency. Sort of one week he'll look like a world beater, and then next week it not so. But when he came on Saturday, granted he had little to no time to actually do anything, but just his presence alone pinned back Southampton.
Yep.
And I think
Exactly.
he's a blessing in disguise, like we sort of spoke about in one of the first podcasts, where his stats like cheat your eyes. Like when you read his stats, you think, oh my God, we've got the best right winger in the world, or right wing forward, or whatever you want to class him as. But yeah, he goes missing for a lot of the game. But I don't know. I think it'd be a good game to sort of play him in. But who would you take out? Because considering Wilshere, he looked fantastic, and what he offered was magnificent. He looked like, I don't really want to say it, but he was getting back to sort of full form.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Would you play Wilshere, or would you sort of rest
Tuesday?
him? Yes.
I think I'd start with Rosicky, because I think he really forces, especially if they're a little bit shaky, I think he just forces them into a different game by his pressing and his relentlessness and that energy. I think it just really disrupts any possibility for a team to settle. He's always, with his arm above his head saying, "Come on, follow me this way."
Yeah. That's a great shout. Yeah, he does. He makes the tempo, doesn't he? Speeds up the tempo, and I think he's fantastic anyway. So I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I think I'd play Rosicky. Sorry, Chris, I'd play Rosicky. I think from his point of view, he could probably feel hard done by not to have started the game against Southampton with his recent form. And I think although Jack has looked fine and fit and stuff, and he's looking back to his best, I'm not sure if it's worth just yet risking him kind of 2 games within a matter of days.
It's interesting, because Chris previously mentioned that about he's going to have to sort of take a game, then have a rest and play a game just due to his age.
Yeah.
So maybe it's prime for him to come back.
Yeah.
But I think
although his stats are for his age, his stats, he still runs. He's in the top like 5 or 10.
Oh yeah.
Every game. His
I just meant due to sort of like recovery and things.
Right. Yeah. Recovery time.
In my mind, for Tuesday night, I would drop Cazorla, because I thought he looked a bit lethargic on Tuesday. I don't know. I wonder whether or not it's the fact that he's obviously been to Ecuador and then South Africa, and then back up to the UK. So I would say he plays Giroud up top, and then just the 3 behind are Özil in the middle, then probably Rosicky on the left, and then Walcott on the right. I think you play Walcott against a Champions League team like Marseille. Like, Champions League teams are the best teams of their respective divisions, and so they don't do a Stoke and just sit on the edge of sit 11 men on the edge of the box. They want to come and play football. So with that, you're going to get teams that are pushing further forward, and you're going to allow more space for Walcott. I think then I'd play Walcott again if he can make it. I'd play him again against Cardiff, because Cardiff are at home, and so they'll be pushing forward, and it will leave gaps for Walcott. And then I probably wouldn't play him in either the Hull, maybe the Everton game, but probably not the Hull game, because that's the sort of game where a team will just sit on the edge of their box, give no space, no green grass for Walcott to run into. So that's my front 3 for Marseille would be, or my sitting behind Giroud would be Özil, Rosicky, and then Walcott on the right, and then mix it up a bit for Cardiff. But I do wonder whether or not Vermaelen needs to be given a shout. I know there'll probably be a lot of people sort of questioning that, but just purely with the volume of games that we've got between now and Christmas, those players, we don't want to just run players into the ground. We saw what happened with Wilshere before he got his injury, just by playing 50-odd games. Modern day football is about rotation, and whether we like it or not. And I think Vermaelen needs to be given a shout.
Who would you play him with?
I would play him with Mertesacker. I'd alternate. I'd rotate the 3, but I'd play him with Mertesacker mainly, because Mertesacker shouldn't really be dropped. But again, going back to my point, you've got to then rotate because Mertesacker can't play all of the games. Koscielny can't play all of the games, and Vermaelen, well, he hasn't been playing the games. So,
who would you, if you were to play Koscielny and Vermaelen on Tuesday night, for example, who would you, if everyone was fit, who would you have in the two in front of them?
Flamini and Ramsey probably.
Yeah, I'd probably say I'd do that too.
Steve,
I think
who would you do?
Yeah,
Sorry, no, go on, Paul. You were going to say something.
No, I just no, it's good. Go ahead, Steve. We'll catch up.
Okay.
On my idea,
No, I'd agree.
Interrupting the flow.
I'd put Flamini and Ramsey. I think, especially, I mean, if Arteta's out injured, you'd have to do that if we're giving Jack a rest. And I think having Flamini there, if people worry about Vermaelen running forward every now and then, hopefully he'd drop back in. So
That's what he did fantastic. Would you not play Arteta and Flamini together? So, assuming that everyone was fit, it was just if you were going to play them as a partnership, would you want it more solid?
I think going back to the guest blog that we had, I when we really go into attack a team, which I think we will do against Marseille, I'd prefer to have Ramsey as one of the two, and then either Arteta or Flamini as the other.
Good shout. Yeah. Paul, what were you going to say?
Yeah, well, with your front three, with you had Rosicky and Ozil and Walcott behind Giroud, I'm just, I've always felt like Theo leaves Bakary quite exposed. He leaves Sagna exposed on the right. His defense isn't that great. And Rosicky is a kind of quite attack-minded. Ozil obviously is, attacking. So I think in some ways, one of the good things about like the Ramsey and the Wilshere combinations, they do tend to, they do tend to drop back and defend pretty well and cover. And I think that because Ozil kind of, if you think about it, he's kind of been playing the Walcott position this season. He's often hanging out on the right-hand side. He's waiting on, and making play from that side, except without the kind of run through. So now if you swing him around and put Walcott there, I often felt that Sagna was, left on his own. And he's also not getting younger, so do we put Jenkinson in? When are we going to rotate Sagna? I mean, we just presume he's in the starting lineup, because he's so brilliant. But I think we're going to be in the same position with him. You can't expect him to attack as he has been and defend as he has been, because he's covering a lot of ground. And so I think we should look at that,
It's a very good shout, but currently Jenkinson's pants. So
I know, but it's going to catch up with us at some point.
What you was like inhaling, because I was like, oh my god, he's speaking so much sense. Would you play him? Would you happily have him in the team?
I'd probably play him more against Hull than Marseille, but I think that we have to start rotating Sagna, and we need to give him a contract. I mean, for sake.
Yeah, banging.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point.
When he's finished, right?
When Paul, when Sagna went down, it was one of those. Oh no! If he gets injured, we're pretty screwed because we're going to have to play Jenkinson quite a lot now. So
what they should do is they should have his wife as like one of the physios and just like bring her on. The wet sponge.
Put a little tent over him.
Yeah,
she could ministrate tenderly to his wounded areas and come back and find his previous woody self. But when Sagna goes down, he goes down from like 9 feet. It's like a Fosbury flop onto his head. It's heart and mouth stuff every time he does it.
Yeah, it is. Ben, I don't think that's a good idea about his wife, because if they did that, every player on the opposite team would be wiping Sagna out left, right, and centre.
Voyeuristic.
Or we could just like stand her behind the goal and just see if the sort of keeper turns and like has a look at her.
So what do you do about that?
Sorry, Paul?
What do you do about bringing Walcott in and expose? Because there's kind of a balance that we had even when Cazorla was injured, and we kind of we were working with Wilshere and Ozil and Ramsey and the machine kind of found its groove. And then when Santi came in, he didn't really fit in very well. For the first 2 or 3 games, he wasn't the player we saw last season.
No.
And so it's all very well having these fantastic cogs, but if they don't fit together, the team kind of just breaks down. And I think now introducing Walcott and then later introducing Podolski, I mean, those kind of balances, between, Gibbs and whoever's in front of him, or Yesanya and us, I mean, all those things suddenly they have to refine their groove. So we've got to find the time to experiment and get these, get them working. And it's just, when do you do that,
Yeah. Because I think Walcott will be a blessing in disguise for Santi, because where he likes to drift, I think when he was drifting, he likes to find some space and find a player to sort of almost pinball the ball off. Because Ozil, when he's been drifting out to the right, he's been playing like 1-2s with his left foot, sending the sort of right back, sort of sending him on the dummy, been playing it off and then making a run. But with Walcott fixed on the right, I think it will give Ozil and Cazorla space to sort of rotate with each other, if that makes sense. So they'll form more of a relationship. I think now, where it's been so fluid, it hasn't given Cazorla time to sort of get on with Ozil as much, if that makes sense, because we know what Walcott's going to do. He's going to run up and down in a straight line. He's not going to drift. He may drop the ball off to Sanya and then run into a blind alley, but we know where he's going to be at all times, and I think that'll give Cazorla and Ozil time to sort of bond, if you will, to sort of create. It'll be interesting to see how that works in the next few weeks. Obviously, with Wilshere playing well, what's he going to do with his team selection?
Yeah, it is really interesting.
I have an observation about Ozil, and I really, really don't want to sound like I'm kind of complaining. I mean, it's fantastic to have him, and it's kind of like being given a Ferrari for Christmas, and you go, yeah, but I wanted the blue one, and he gave me a red. But with Ozil, when he's involved in play, or even when he's involved on a break, I never get the sense that he has this motivation to attack the goal and to take a shot or to run onto the ball in order to shoot. Like, I haven't ever really got that sense from him. There's a few times that on the break he's been clear on the right and he's kind of run towards the opposition box, and then he seems to slow down and wait and see, is somebody going to come in here that I can pass this magic assist to, Yeah. And even when they're around the edge of the box and they're these little tick-a-tack 1-2s, I've never seen Ozil really be the player who's going to be the end of the move, who's going to take a shot at the keeper, test him. I do get the sense from Cazorla and Wilshere and Giroud, those guys, when they're on the end of one of those movements, that they're happy to be that final product,
final piece of the puzzle.
But I don't get that from Ozil, and it's kind of nagged in the back of my head. I'm just wondering when that effort comes, or if he's just maybe not that kind of player, and should just be happy with the fact that he's so brilliant.
Enjoy your Ferrari.
Yeah.
I think,
I don't know how many shots he's had on goal, to be honest. I think he scored it for both of them.
Yeah. I think that's the answer, Paul. I think he's just not that sort of player. It's just not his natural game, is it? And he said in the interview, I like to assist. And I think that's it.
But then there's a problem if he's in the center of that little trio that you're talking about. If each one of those three, people moving around the edge of the box and interplay and all that stuff, if one of them isn't prepared to, be the person that's going to finish off the move, it could also kind of make them out a little bit, and always looking for one extra pass, and then it's too late.
Yeah, and I think that has happened sometimes. Hopefully, with Walcott and soon Podolski coming back, that will change, and I hope that Ozil will start. I think he did have a shot on Saturday. He kind of checked inside and smashed it straight at Boruc, but it was one hell of a strike, like power-wise. So hopefully he will start shooting a bit more. Before we come to the end, guys, because we're just kind of coming to the end now, I thought I'd say something really funny.
Go on.
Are you sure?
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yeah, drum roll.
Spurs.
That's the best punchline ever. It's a punchline and the joke all in one.
Today was just, we could have done with, obviously, in an ideal world, we could do with all of the other teams that are in around the top sort of 6-7 places, or 9th as Tottenham are now, so mid-table. We could do with them all drawing against each other, but if you're not going to have teams drawing against each other every single week, let's just see Spurs getting battered. Yeah. It's just funny. Yeah. And to have them capitulate and, all this rubbish around, we've got the best... Oh, my God, somebody's...
Yeah. Sorry,
What on earth is?
I'm on my Harley.
He's taking off.
Yeah.
Paul's coming to us live from a motor. Yeah, he started up that blue Ferrari.
Ferrari, yeah.
Rip-on, yeah.
There you go.
But it was just good to see. Like they had all these Spurs fans talking about their fantastic defence, conceded 6 goals all season. Well, you just doubled that, guys. You've doubled the goals against tally, and you're not even. They're on -3 goal difference.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it?
And then United as well drew 2-2, which was
a great
brilliant.
game.
Absolutely brilliant to watch. So, well happy.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, guys. Well, before I close off, it's been a slightly longer pod than usual, but well worth it, I think. Do you have any closing words, Ben?
Spurs have a -3 goal difference.
Chris?
I would just say, obviously, we didn't get the chance to talk much about Cardiff. I think that's going to be a tough game for us this time next week. I think when we'll be talking about it, it will be a tough game.
Yeah.
I think Cardiff are just going to lump balls into the box and try and challenge us. And so I think the role that Chesney played, we mentioned it obviously earlier, Paul, when you were saying that he was your man in the match. I think that the role that the defence plays against Cardiff next week will probably define whether or not we have a nice, comfortable afternoon, or whether or not it's similar to the afternoon that Man United got today and Man City have already had there, because they just put a lot of pressure on set pieces. They stick a man on the keeper all the time to hustle the keeper. And I think that'll be a challenge. But yeah, that was all I wanted to sort of just mention.
Okay.
My butt in.
Go on then.
I'm going to butt in. So it'd just be interesting to watch Campbell, because they'll put him on Mertesacker. He plays off the last shoulder, so Koscielny's going to have to do a lot of tracking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, go on.
No, I agree. And Paul, any closing remarks from you?
I think the thing that stands us in best stead as Arsenal as a club is that for the last 8 years we've been the team that always slips on the banana skin, and falls flat on our face and everyone laughs at us. So I think that the way we approach every game, whether it's Hull or Cardiff or United or City or whatever, is that we can see the potential for, really humiliating yourself unnecessarily. And I think Villa, the first game of the season, reminded us. And I think that's what really stands us, in good stead in the future.
Definitely.
I don't think we're going to treat any game like it's a done deal. So, and the teams in the league this season, they've all beaten everybody. There's no easy game. It doesn't matter if you're 15th or 18th or 3rd or 2nd. Just every single game you got to go out there and give it your best shot.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd echo that, and I'd echo also your point, Ben, about it's actually really comforting. I felt in the Southampton game when they had kind of Rodriguez or some of their faster players running through, to have someone like Koscielny who's got a bit of pace at the back is really comforting. So yeah, okay, that's coming towards the end of the vlog there. Thank you all for listening. Hope you've enjoyed the long one. Thank you very much, Paul. If you're not following him, check out @Invinciblog, hit the follow button. And Suburban Gooners out.
Bye.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
And then Steve fires in with the do 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 do.
Da-da-da-da-da.